Supercar? No, no.
The Mini is no supercar, but it's a lot of fun to drive. And it's fun that you can afford.
The modern Mini Cooper, a non-traditional sports car offering high performance, affordable fun.
Mini is such a fantastic British brand. It's got a lot of heritage and a lot of culture. It's got a lot of history to it.
A quarter of a century ago, the marque nearly fades away.
There was the uncertainty. There was some unrest.
Now, this British icon is riding high thanks to a tightly knit team.
There's a lot of camaraderie. We've worked together with a lot of people for a long time, so you build up that team spirit.
A strong sense of family.
I grew up in Oxford. My granddad worked here in the 50s and 60s. Basically, I'm following suit.
And a unique apprentice program.
We're protecting old school engineering skills.
The result is a beacon of industrial hope.
It just goes to show the fact that we are still a force for manufacturing within the UK.
Confidence that's best expressed in the fastest Mini ever made.
The John Cooper Works edition that we make at the plant here is our supercar.
The modern Mini Cooper, the everyman's supercar. It's a car born during a global oil crisis. One of the most influential designs of the 20th century. And a quirky machine that's unapologetically British.
The Mini was born in England, and it's great that it's still produced here.
It's ours, it's quirky, it's got a look. There's a lot of cars out there at the moment that you look at, and you have to see the badge before you know what it is. You see a Mini, you know you're seeing a Mini.
Minis aren't built for statistical bragging rights, but rather smiles per litre.
A fast little turbocharged go-kart, you're pretty high on the thrills per dollar scale.
Few machines offer as much performance in a smaller footprint.
The Mini brand has always been about making a lot of performance from a tiny little package.
Base models start at just €18,000. But if you want a little more bang for your buck, the top-of-the-line John Cooper Works edition clocks in at a very reasonable $32,000.
It's going to surprise people, but the Mini is democratized performance. It's a small, quick, sharp-handling car that's a lot of fun to drive at a reasonable price point.
Ultra-affordable performance paired with a fervently British sensibility.
If you see stereotypical British things, you get the Bulldog, you get the Union flag, and you get a Mini. It's so intrinsically linked, which is nice because every country's got their thing.
Today, the brand sells cars in over 110 countries, and every single one starts the very same way.
It's got a strong brand identity and reaches to every corner of the world. So.
I often look at the destinations of the cars that we build on the line, and it's amazing. One car to America, the next car to China, then a car that goes to France, then Australia, New Zealand.
You look at the build sheets, I mean, Korea, when it, you think, whoa, I mean, and the sales in China, you think, wow, amazing.
The Mini is a worldwide phenomenon that requires 3 distinct factories to get the job done. At the Swindon pressing plant, they manufacture body panels and sub-assemblies. They build 3- and 4-cylinder engines at Hams Hall in North Warwickshire. And every day they produce 1,000 completed machines at the Oxford assembly plant.
Currently, we're building the 3-door hatch, the 5-door hatch, and the brand new Mini Clubman. In the past, we built up to 5 models on the same line.
In a given year, they manufacture more than 200,000 machines.
So the car has come in from the paint shop, comes in a set sequence. We've already started to fit some of the parts of the car.
Every 68 seconds, there's a car leaving the line. We are working more or less 24/5, so 3 shifts, 5 days a week.
The speed necessitates a lengthy 1.7-kilometer assembly line.
There's 224 stations on the main line, so that's from when it first comes in from the paint shop to our final station.
Nearly 5,000 craftspeople bolt and wrench parts inside a facility that is nearly the size of 100 football pitches.
We're now at harness fit, so this is one of the really complicated parts of our process.
We've got a big thing here, is the oven. We've got 18 harnesses in there, 60 degrees all the time. They're all sequenced in there. We get the harness one by one, we take them out and then we fit them around the car, clip them in, and they're all ready for the people to fix their parts to.
Each harness weighs 20 kilograms and has over 500 clips that have to be snapped into place.
My section is one of the most physically demanding areas because of the harness, because of the bending, and because of the thickness of the harness. It is quite a hard area.
There's little downtime thanks to the high station count and the fast cycle times. To keep the line humming along, workers are backed up by another team of associates.
These guys are the Formula One guys. These are the ones that put the cars together. They're the most important parts of our company. I'm here as a support function, so if they've got an issue, any problems, they let me know and I jump in and let them get on with the next bit.
We do our best. All the blokes, we're all basically on the same page most of the time, and we all strive to build the perfect car. And that's what the Mini is. It's becoming the perfect little car. And it's a good job. It's a proud place to work for, isn't it?
The passion here is palpable and historic.
This facility is the oldest mass manufacturer of automotives.
Built in 1913, the Oxford site has produced over 11.5 million cars, spread over 7 different brands.
No, it's historic, it's iconic. We're very proud to work here and work for the name Mini.
Very proud to know that I've been party to the manufacturing of that product.
To be a part of such an iconic thing as the Mini, I think for me it's a great opportunity.
There's so many companies who change the basic formula. Mini hasn't done that. It's still a fun driving car as it was back in the 50s when it was first launched.
The Mini might be a British icon, but its roots take hold thanks to a French diplomat named Ferdinand de Lesseps. He's inspired while reading a book about Napoleon's early attempt to connect the Mediterranean and the Red Sea. It takes 37 years, but in 1869, his dream becomes reality when the Suez Canal opens. The waterway becomes a hub for international trade, and by the early 50s, 2/3 of Europe's oil supply travels through it. However, in 1956, Egypt nationalizes the canal. The act starts a chain reaction that eventually leads to a worldwide oil crisis.
The Mini story starts with actually a fuel crisis, an oil crisis, and a need for vehicles to be fuel efficient and affordable.
In Britain, the government institutes a fuel rationing program that limits motorists to just 4 gallons of petrol per month. The restrictions inspire the British Motor Company, or BMC, to focus on fuel economy. And they ask car designer Sir Alec Isagonis to create a thrifty machine.
BMC came to him and said we need a car due to the Suez crisis in 1956.
The task has a single mandate: fit 4 people comfortably in a car that can't be longer than 10 feet.
He started in his kitchen, I heard, setting up 4 chairs and invited friends and looked how much space do 4 people need, actually.
Most cars at the time offer rear-wheel drive and use an engine that's longitudinally mounted. Isagonis's inspiration is to spin the engine 90 degrees.
His best move was to turn the engine transverse. That's a principle which is set, I think, for small and compact cars till today. It's kind of a really genius construction principle.
Next, Isagonis decides to make his car front-wheel drive. Finally, he engineers a compact transmission that fits beneath the engine, not behind it. Isagonis's entire drivetrain occupies just 2 feet of the new machine and allows the remaining 80% of the space to be dedicated to passengers.
As it turns out, he also designed a car that was a lot of fun to drive. And people started figuring that out pretty quick. These things handle pretty good. They were a lot of fun.
In 1959, the British Motor Company launches the Mini, a 2-door, 4-cylinder car featuring a monocoque shell. Initially, the machine is offered with a 34-horsepower engine, but gets a whopping 36 miles to the gallon. Heady fuel efficiency numbers even today. Yet it's what happens next that helps coin the term hot hatch. Just 2 years after its introduction, the Mini's unique design characteristics, remarkable handling, and fun-filled driving experience captivate Britain.
Alex Isagonis was trying to make a compact and affordable little run-around family car. Needed as much space as possible, but also be compact enough to fit in little tight spaces, park in cities. As it turned out, in the way he designed the car, it actually goes around a corner really well. And people figured this out really quickly.
Among those people is Formula One team owner John Cooper.
John Cooper actually was a constructor who was working for Formula One, and he was a friend of Alex Isagonis. He recognized the potential of the Mini.
In 1961, Cooper bores out the standard car's engine, fits twin carburetors, disc brakes, and a racing-derived close-ratio gearbox. The result is the Mini Cooper, a race car for the everyman.
If you give man something motorized, they will find a way to race it. That's kind of how it works. And that's true for bar stools, and that's true for motorcycles, and it's true for the Mini.
By the late 70s, the brand sells over 4 million machines.
John Cooper was a racing driver who raced Minis and who also hot-rodded them up. The company owes a bit of their popularity to his racing success.
Today, hot-rodded compact 3- and 5-door machines are called hot hatches, a term that John Cooper helped originate, and one benefiting the current top-of-the-line Mini JCW.
JCW stands for John Cooper Works, and that's an homage to John Cooper, who raced the first Minis.
This is a brand that, you know, for its humble origins, for being a cute car, actually has a lot of performance behind it.
Supercar, super performance, but it's affordable to everybody. Leaving the plant, I see so many of these cars where people, you can see a big smile on their face just driving them.
The JCW is fun to whip around a track, but it begins just like every other machine at the Swindon pressing plant.
We're in the blanking area of the press shop at Swindon. This is sort of the initial step of the process. We take coiled steel, which you can see here behind me, and we sort of unwind that into our blanking tools, and we cut from that sheet steel. It is quite big. This coil, for example, is about 20 tons worth. On average, we get delivered about 15 tons in each coil.
The plant starts in 1954 and 5 years later becomes the largest employer in the area.
It's a real growing process, you know. You join here as sort of a young guy, a little bit apprehensive of the world around you. As you can see, it's a big factory. It makes you quite nervous, but you grow into it.
At Swindon, they produce nearly 90% of the Mini's pressings and the majority of the sub-assemblies. such as the doors, bonnets, and tailgates.
We're now at the sort of tail end of the blanking process. What we saw earlier was the coiled steel coming in. It's now been through this blanking line, chopped, if you like, into sheet steel. What you can see here behind you is blanks for the mini sunroof.
The sunroof blanks are extremely thin. The height of each one is equal to just 7 sheets of paper stacked on top of each other.
So on a press like this, in the first operation, which is the forming press, where all the shaping's done.
Presses vary in age and power. The largest uses 5,000 tons of force. That's half the weight of the Eiffel Tower, and it presses down on a sheet of metal in mere seconds.
This is the final stage in the pressing process. We've cut the sheet steel, we've formed it into a panel, and now we just check the outer surface for cosmetic defects to make sure it's just perfect for the customer.
After a part is pressed, it heads next door to the welding hall.
The parts are brought here, and we assemble them into what we call sub-assemblies.
Over 200 welding robots create body parts a jolt at a time.
The robots offer pinpoint accuracy, repeatability in the process, and speed.
The robots better move fast. The welding shop's cycle time is tied directly to the speed of the Oxford final assembly plant.
Each individual cell is a 60-second, roughly, cycle time is what we aim for. We have to match the cycle time in Oxford in that respect. I think the volume of panels produced here is quite mind-blowing. We produce 11,000, say, assemblies a day, which is pretty staggering.
The majority of the finished parts are sent nearly 35 miles to final assembly.
This is huge for Oxford. The employment that it brings, the kudos that it brings. I mean, we see visitors every day of the week from all over the world that want to come in and see how the car's built, and that's totally understandable. I'd want to see it.
The facility opens in 1913, and just 2 decades later, accounts for nearly 30% of England's total exports. But in the back half of the 20th century, the success fades fast.
The British automotive industry collapses multiple times.
By the 1980s, the plant has already gone through 6 different owners. Years of minimal investment doom it to an uncertain future.
The feeling was one of great trepidation. We didn't know what the future would bring, so we knew that the future was very, very difficult for the plant.
In 1994, BMW buys the Rover Group, which at the time owns Mini, for nearly 1.2 billion euros.
By the time BMW bought Mini, it wasn't really a car company the way we think of most mainstream car companies. They weren't coming out with new products or anything.
6 years later, BMW relaunches the Mini brand. The goal isn't to help a nation, but rather the bottom line.
In the late 90s, BMW had a lot of aspirations to grow, but if they want to expand, they need to have some less expensive cars, some more affordable, everyman kind of cars. They don't want to hurt their name by putting it on something really cheap.
At the time, some critics pan the reborn Mini for being both sacrilegious and a less expensive Beamer.
You could see the Mini Cooper as my first Beamer. The modern Mini bears little resemblance to the original Mini. It's much bigger, it's much heavier. It doesn't drive like the original Minis at all.
Other commentators contend the reborn machine opens up a premium product to a broader market.
You got people saying, well, I can't afford a BMW, but hey, here's this Mini. It's stylish, it's different, it's fun, and it's built by the same guys that built a BMW 3 Series. There's a lot of that BMW value in this car, so you're kind of getting the best of both. You're getting this iconic British style, and you're getting that German cachet that you want.
The success story starts thanks to a very small car, but it actually means quite a bit more.
It's the biggest employer outside of the public sector. You take a walk through Oxford and you'll see features harking back to manufacturing here for the last 100 years. It means an awful lot.
Revitalizing the Oxford plant helps both the local community and members of the Mini family.
It's quite a big family business here. You'll find a lot of generations work here, so it's passed on from generation to generation.
There's a lot of people that have had a lot of history. My father, for example, worked here. My grandfather also worked here. But there's people that go back 3, 4 generations.
I'm the last member of my family to come here. My sister works here, my father's worked here, my grandparents worked here. Back in the very old days, my gran worked here building parts for, I think it was fuel tanks for aeroplanes. My mum worked here in payroll. I'm the last one here.
Having fun starts on the line, but ends up imbued in the car itself.
It's just such a fun little car. The feeling is amazing. It's just great, and they're great to drive as well. I have one.
It's the people that make the plant. You could call it love.
It's just such a well-known and well-liked brand, isn't it? The renewed version in sort of 2000-ish re-sparks that love for everyone, I think, because it's just quirky and it's not like a sort of bog-standard car. It draws the eye, doesn't it?
The catchy and quirky Mini turns heads thanks to one of the most sophisticated body shops in the automotive world, where every day they assemble 1,000 new shells blazingly fast thanks to 1,000 robots, 6,000 welds, and the hard work of the next generation of Mini craftspeople. Every day at the Oxford Final Assembly Plant, brand new Minis roll off the line nearly every minute.
They still build them in England, and they put Union Jacks on the roof and play up the Britishness of them.
The process begins in a highly automated body shop.
We're in body in white. The body is what you see being built over here. It's the bare bones of the car. We fit the closures to it. Trim pieces, the windows, the door cars, etc. all get fitted later on.
BMW spends over £750 million upgrading the site.
The total build-up time is around a day from start of the process to end of the process where the car gets delivered into the paint shop.
650 workers split over 3 shifts oversee all the robots.
It's non-stop. It kicks off at 6 o'clock in the morning. We work round the clock until Friday night. There's constantly something different happening. Always, you know, the robots are moving in the background. You have to keep your wits about you.
Over 435 different steel and synthetic parts are connected, and 90% of the tasks are automated.
The body sides get built up in 3 modular steps, so we go from a framing 1 body, which is, you wouldn't really recognise it as a body shell, framing 2, where a lot more of the structural rigidity comes in. Framing 3 starts to resemble something more of a car, and then the hang-on parts are all fitted, and that's where you'll really recognise it as a body.
On average, a finished body in white weighs nearly 400 kilos. Once the welding robots have their fun, a special perceptron camera double-checks the work. The system is accurate up to 1/10 of a millimeter, which is just about the width of a human hair. When a body is finished, it's time to add a splash of British colour inside the paint shop, where it will take 9.5 more hours to give a new machine its vibrant exterior.
We're at the point now where we've got the cars come over from the body in white.
The first step is to rinse the body shells in a chemical bath.
Our first process is our pre-treatment. It goes through different baths with different chemicals, making sure the car is perfectly clean and ready to take the paint.
After taking a quick dip, the body is baked at 180 degrees Celsius, which gives the shell a greenish primer tint.
It goes into a complete dip tank. We get the first layer of paint in it, which we call E-coat, just paint being applied through electrostatic.
A collection of robots applies over 77 meters of seam sealer to each machine.
The car will then go through a small area of preparation prior to going into the colour booths, where all the robots will spray firstly inside the car, then outside the car.
The colour booth features 2 different sets of robots. The first are electrostatic machines that apply the base coat and flat colours. However, if you order a metallic finish, then pneumatic robots join the action. In total, it takes roughly 4 litres of paint to cover a Mini.
The huge amount of customization you can do to a Mini, these cars have character. You can get interesting decals, get interesting stripe packages, interesting logos, and it's all there to make the car feel a little bit more unique than your typical $20,000 to $40,000 economy vehicle.
The fully automated facility is entirely modern, but it wasn't always this way.
I've been here a long time now. I'm in my 38th year of working here. I'm on my 3rd paint shop. When I first started, we sprayed all them by hand. And in those days, all the paint had lead in them. And we didn't have air-fed masks. We had just a little paper mask. And that would be our day's work, and it'd be hard.
Tom Bennett runs the Mini paint shop, and his history with the marque goes back a long way.
The success story isn't just with me. My father worked in the press shops here for 40 years. And I currently got both my sons worked here, one for 10 years and one for 15 years. When it comes time to me to retire, I've still got my family, and the Mini is a big part of my family and always has been for many generations.
Family connections mean a great deal at the Oxford plant.
My brother actually worked here before me, so it was through a referral. A lot of my friends were moving and working here, so I thought, why not take the opportunity?
Knowing someone on the inside helps get your foot in the door, but it's hard work that moves you up.
But I've been within assembly since 2003. I've slowly worked my way up. I actually started off on the shop floor as an associate, doing the process the same as these guys, became a team leader, and now a process leader.
The healthy amount of upward mobility creates frequent job openings, some of which are filled by former apprentices taught at the Oxford plant. In 2012, the brand creates the Mini Academy.
Particularly in the UK, you're in a situation whereby vocational skills, plumbers, electricians, carpenters, those sort of people went into decline. And unfortunately, now we're paying a price for that.
Each year, 32 lucky youngsters are given the chance to learn the ins and outs of auto production.
It's about growing that person from scratch. We want to influence behaviors. We want to teach life skills. We want these people to be people that at the end of their apprenticeship want to have a 40-year career with our business.
Jason Gaskell is the head of the apprentice training program. He runs a highly intensive 3 or 4 year course that offers future employees old world skills while also protecting the brand's future.
What we don't want is a situation whereby we get to a stage where nobody has that old ability or that old hands-on ability to be able to put their hand to something, to fix it, to keep things going.
While the goal is to cultivate artisanal skills, the approach is utterly modern.
Apprenticeships historically were viewed as being for people who couldn't necessarily hack it in an academic forum. That is not the case today. The people that you see around you today in this workshop are highly academic.
New apprentices don't start with tools, but rather mice. The academic program begins in a high-tech classroom.
Currently, at the moment, we're standing in what we call the IT suite. As part of their apprenticeship, they need to learn how to design and draw things on CAD.
CAD, or computer-aided design, lets the apprentices learn their trade in the virtual world. After the digital tech, it's time for old-school tools.
And we're now in what we call our technical training facility, or if I go back to old school, in our workshop.
I think it's kind of a good mix of sort of hands-on learning and theory learning as well, and you get to work around with the cool cars, so that's nice.
Even though the factory is extremely automated, the new apprentices start with basic handwork.
You can see the people working on the benches are really doing some basic down-to-earth skills. Filing, drilling, cutting. Things that you would expect any base foundation person wanting to get into engineering to be able to do.
Once the students master hand tools, it's time to move up to the motorized lathes and mills.
Now, in your modern engineering terms, you'd feed that into a computer program and the machine would do the turning and cutting for you. We're still old school here. We want them to physically be able to put a piece of metal into a machine and make something with it.
After all the tools, it's time for something a bit more shocking.
What you see in front of you now is our electrical training area. So they do a little bit on what we would term domestic electrical. So how do I wire a plug? How do I wire a light? Because there may be that situation that they need to do that.
Doing, the machining and with the hand fittings and everything like that, the electrical side of it. It's something that I've never known before, and I've learned all these different skills that I didn't even think I could do, and it's possible.
More importantly, they then go on to PLCs and programming, so the equipment that controls our factories, they get to do that.
Learning how to program the equipment inside the plant is critically important.
Although technology is taking massive leaps forward, there is still big bits of equipment that sit out in our factories that need to be fixed. Nothing runs forever. Our utopian world would love us to have a situation like that, but it doesn't exist. So what these young people are learning is, should something go wrong at 2 o'clock in the morning, they have the ability to get that fixed quickly.
Rapid solutions and intelligent problem solving are critical skills inside the Oxford plant, where brand new Minis roll off the line every 67 seconds. And each shift, 700 workers put their hearts and souls into every machine.
It's getting your hands dirty. It's finding out how things work. If you like that sort of thing, you like working here.
We are proud of the product, so we want to make sure it's good for the customers and everybody enjoys it.
2,300 people work on 8 distinct lines under this roof.
1,000 cars a day. So that's something we're very proud of, is 1,000 cars every single day.
On the track, modern Minis move forward at a nice clip. But if you look down at the dashboard, it's a throwback to another time.
They keep it small. There's no deviation from their philosophy. I think the thing that I like the most about Mini is that it's unrepentantly Mini. They do it their own way, and that's it.
Installing the iconic dashboard takes place at Station 20.
We're now installing the cockpit into the vehicle. So it's very, very precise. It only just fits into the aperture of the door. It's then fitted onto its locating points on the dashboard, and then it's secured to the vehicle.
Simple bolts secure the dashboard. But back in the Mini Academy, the goal is to secure the future of the brand.
It takes us 4 years to qualify an apprentice. We can prototype, launch, and build a car in 2.5. So that gives you a kind of a time-scale idea of what apprenticeships are all about. They're a massive, massive investment for the long-term strategy of a business.
The long-term plan starts in a very internet-savvy way.
I applied through going online on the Facebook page.
Some apprentices arrive online, others show up in need of change.
I did do a degree in politics, actually, and then I sort of realised I didn't want to do that, so had a bit of a career change, and here I am. When you say it to someone, it always sparks a conversation. So yeah, it's not some unknown company. They're like, what do they do? It's quite easy to kind of talk about the cars and where things are going. So that's always interesting.
It's easy to see where the Oxford Mini plant is headed. Today, the facility is responsible for more than 10% of all the automotive production in the UK, including the hottest Mini of them all, the JCW. The John Cooper Works Edition is the fastest machine that Mini has ever made. Its 228 horsepower, 2-litre twin-turbo motor is built inside the Hams Hall facility, where over 7,000 3- and 4-cylinder motors come to life every single day.
We're in Plant Hams Hall. This is an engine plant where we machine and assemble engines. behind us is the start of the cylinder block line. So this is where we machine the cylinder blocks that go into Mini. So these are raw parts. They come to us, they're cast externally, and they come here for us to machine them.
The stations move in under 30 seconds, and it takes about 8 hours from start to finish to build a new motor.
This is the start of the process where we launch the cylinder head onto the assembly line, and it then takes a number of stations. It gets assembled. We have machined heads that are machined next doors in our machining hall. They come in a pallet, get delivered, and then they get loaded onto the assembly line via the robot.
The machined cylinder heads are assembled and tested.
What Raji's doing is he's visually inspecting the part just to make sure that there's no defects in the components. The problem with machining is machining will uncover defects in the casting.
In another part of the factory, they work on the crankshafts.
We're on the crankshaft machining line, and we're very close towards the end of the process. And this is a super finishing process. There's 3 steps through this finishing process. So there's a rough tape, the finishing tape process, and then there's another tape that picks up the parts of the crankshaft that don't get picked up on this particular one here. So 3 steps. It's a very fine paper, yeah. As you can see, 1500 grit, it's very, very fine. It's developed on a continuous roll, so it continuously rolls around, so you've always got fresh tape.
On another line, pistons are built up.
This is a sub-assembled piston and conrod. So they're basically travelling now on their journey to the piston fit station, where they'll marry up with a block.
It's time to build a new motor. The crankshaft is installed. New engines then receive their unique identification number. Pistons are connected.
Some of the parts are very intricate, and so it can be very demanding for automation to do that sort of work.
They fit the turbochargers, the inlet manifold, and engine harness.
So at this point, it becomes a unique engine going into a unique Mini.
The motor is now ready to be sent down the road to the Oxford Final Assembly Plant, where it will be delivered directly to the powertrain sub-assembly line.
So our engines come from Hams Hall as a completely built-up engine, but what we now do is build them into the front suspension unit. So we marry now the engine to the subframe and the front suspension, and this is what you see behind us.
55 craftspeople work across 25 engine sub-assembly stations.
Every single process is exactly timed against the 64 seconds. So meticulous planning of every single element of every single process is planned down to the last second.
Once they finish sub-assembling the motor, it's transferred across the aisle, where a new Mini eagerly awaits its power plant.
Where we're standing now is what we call marriage. That is a place where the engine is married with the car, and we've got a split marriage, front axle and engine and gearbox.
So it's a very precise element of the production. With the engine, it's very, very tight to go into the cars. We're talking millimetre gaps between the engine and the body.
To achieve the required precision, the team relies on a special automated system which raises the power plant 15 centimetres beneath the car. Then, 4 robots bolt the drivetrain, subframe and suspension to the car.
8 bolts that hold the engine into the car from underneath, and then there's further ones that are from the engine bay downwards.
car becomes a real car. Now it's married, now it's proud to call itself a car.
Workers bolt the exhaust onto the new engine.
The big pieces that we're installing here is the rear exhaust, the heat shield, further down the line, the modular front end, and also seats. They are fitting the exhaust, so this is onto the hanger bracket. This guy is secure in the front, and this guy's putting on the nice chrome finish so it looks quite pretty at the end. We're going to put nice, shiny, pretty things on the cars.
The battery is connected.
This is at the part where we fit the front end of the vehicle, the front bumper, the front radiator, basically the front frame of the vehicle. Behind me, the parts come in sequence. They're brought in exactly the build sequence that we have going through our production line. So they take them off the rack that they come in on an assister, and then they mate it up to the front of the vehicle. So it's the front end marriage.
Further down the line, workers fit the sport-orientated wheels.
We fit the wheels and secure them. Then further up, we have underbody, which is mainly under paneling.
Wheels which help give the Mini its responsive steering.
People love them for racetracks and back roads. It's fun, super responsive little car that you can just whip it around anything.
I've been here 14 years now. It's great. It's a good company, good to work for, good environment, a lot of good guys here, so it's a really good company.
The wheel fit station is fast and efficient, yet it hides a tremendous amount of complexity. There are over 42 different wheel and tyre combinations available. Once the safety systems check out, it's time to program the Mini's key.
I love what I'm doing, the key programming. I really enjoy the job. I have to be very careful watching what I'm doing, checking the numbers for the right car.
Finally, after 1.7 kilometers of assembly, a new Mini is ready for the real world.
So we're on the finishing line, so this is basically the end of where everything's finished. This will then drive off around next door into validation, ready to go to the customer.
It's taken 5.5 hours to build a new Mini. The quality control process is extremely thorough, but for some machines, it's even more intense. Once a day, they pull a selected machine off the line for extended testing.
Not all of our customers live in the ideal climate. We have variations between whether or not you're looking in Pacific areas or Asia areas where you're talking about quite high humidity, in certain areas which is high sunshine. So this is our climate chamber. You can go down to minus 30 degrees Celsius and up to plus 60. And we can do 98% humidity, so we can really make it a very warm and humid atmosphere. It's very, very unpleasant.
After a machine heats up and thaws out, it takes an extended bath in a water test booth.
This is the water test rig, another area where we torture our cars and really make sure that they are tested to the absolute limits.
They run the water test for a day and a half and have the ability to turn the machine side to side and on an angle.
Some people may have, on their homes, they may have to park like that, basically for the whole lifetime of the vehicle.
After washing off, each machine hits a few bumps.
We're in the shaker rig area. This is the 4-post shaker rig. We're just putting it through its paces to understand if there's any squeaks and rattles on the car.
I think the challenging part is actually about trying to understand what the root cause of something is. You can always hear a noise. Any customer hears a noise in a car, but trying to find out exactly what's causing it is the main issue. It's always the most difficult thing to do.
Diagnosing unwanted sounds is difficult, but in Oxford, the really hard times passed long ago.
I've been at Mini Plant Oxford now for 15 years. When I first started, probably about 50 or 40 cars a day. Now we're making a lot more cars.
The Oxford plant builds nearly 200,000 machines a year. It's a remarkable turnaround for a brand that was once on the ropes.
What Minis do is they focus on sort of the lighter side of driving. The more fun stuff, the more not so serious stuff. Their designs aren't cute, they're playful, and that's the way these cars drive.
The current top-of-the-line machine is the JCW edition. The fastest, coolest, and costliest hot hatch the brand has ever built.
The John Cooper Works edition that we make at the plant here is our supercar. It doesn't come with a massive price tag with it, but it's a really exciting, sporty car.
When you see the JCW badge on the back of a Mini, you know, hey, this is the one that's sporty. This is the one that's fun to drive. This is the one that harkens back to those old cars. JCWs are fun to drive. You get more power, you get more tire, you get suspension that's tuned to be more aggressive. You get a little bit more excitement out of the stuff that I'm interested in, the passion of driving.
The JCW's 228 horsepower engine thrusts the machine 0 to 100 kph in 6 seconds flat and offers a top speed of 246 kilometers per hour. All for about €32,000.
If you think about the British car industry, everything that's left is kind of luxury cars and sports cars, expensive stuff, but the Mini endured. It was the odd one out, right? It was the different one. Kind of retained this pop culture status. The great thing about all the Minis, before you even get to the JCW package, is they're all like little go-karts. They've got that really small, glued to the ground, super quick response. They're just super zippy. It just goes right wherever you point it. The Mini Cooper has democratized performance. There's no corner too tight for it. And then you take a car that's that good to begin with, and then you add all the JCW goodies. Power, bigger brakes, better tires, and different suspension, all these things, and you can really carve a corner with those things.
The Mini starts thanks to a fuel shortage, but quickly becomes an inexpensive form of sport where smiles per corner matter the most.
When the new Mini Cooper was reborn the last decade, it really did sneak up on a lot of people. He said, here's this thing, oh, it's cute, but a Cooper S drove like a little go-kart. I mean, you got the wheels pushed all the way out to the corners. They've got a great stance to them, low center of gravity. They're really nimble, really excellent little performance machines.
Minis surprise people thanks to their affordable performance, but they wow them due to their British sensibility.
As much as Mini is a sporty little car, it trades a lot on its uniqueness. Unique looks and its unique interior layout, and the fact that it's not like anything else you buy in that sort of price class. It's not another 3-box, 4-door sedan that everyone else has.
There's two ways you could look at this car. You could look at it as an inexpensive way to get in a BMW, because there's a lot of BMW attributes to this vehicle, even though they're kind of cleverly hidden. You could also look at it as a lifestyle choice, as a lifestyle vehicle, something that's exciting and interesting to drive, something that's different than another vehicle that you might buy for $30,000.
The great thing about Mini is that they kept the formula. The cars have gotten a lot bigger. They look a bit different. They've got a lot more features and technologies and things these days, but they've always made them fun little go-kart to drive. And the JCWs are the best ones of those.
The modern Mini, a machine that only exists due to an oil crisis, comes of age thanks to a Formula One racer, and today offers a uniquely affordable blend of British fun and high-tech performance.